Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. This is Steve Smith from Trellis Company, and welcome to our webinar on effective customer service presentation that you should be seeing online. And we'll be going through that this morning on effective customer service. It's really very simple. A little bit about me. I'll tell you in a moment a little bit about me. We're going to talk about what do we mean by customer service. What do we not mean by customer service? Because that's an important distinction as well. Why is all this important? How do we know if we have a problem? 5 guiding principles I'm going to give you. Again, why is this important? And I'm going to call that the compounding effect. And a little bit feedback from you if we have time. Okay, this is me. Again, Steve Smith. I have over 30 years of working in higher education administration. I've been a financial aid officer at the City University of New York. I will mention as an aside, I worked in Midtown Manhattan as my first financial aid job, although I am a native of West Texas. So just for clarity, that's where I come from, and I ended up all the way there. So financial aid officer, I've worked in strategic planning at Texas Guaranteed Student Loan Corporation, which is now Trellis Company, where I am today. I've also been the president and the vice president of academic affairs at La Cordon Bleu College of Culinary Arts. So I say all of that on background to emphasize that I have been in your shoes for just about everything. Financial aid, you have got to deal with customer service all the time. There are people that are happy and unhappy and have big questions and things like that about how am I going to pay for school and how am I going to pay for life. And often these are emotional, often these are difficult conversations. So I've been there. As a president and a vice president of a school, I've dealt with everything from parents. I don't understand my bill. I don't understand my syllabus. I don't like my grade. I don't like my teacher. That student next to me is bothering me. Why does this guy get something that I don't get? You name it, I have dealt with it. And I've also dealt with the good things too. People being fabulously happy, people celebrating, great graduations. I've been through it all. But what I'm going to be focusing on today is just that day-to-day customer service that we all deal with in colleges. Mostly, we're talking here from the context of administrative staff, but these same things can apply to faculty, administrators, really anybody. So I've developed these principles over the years of working with students, working with parents, working with staff and faculty, noticing and correcting my own many, many mistakes and those of the people that I have managed and worked with, and just the simple little, things that happen along the way, and you correct them and you get better at it over time. I've done the same training with my own staff many, many times, and I find that the principles on the way out, which are pretty simple, really do work. So let me talk a little about what do we mean by customer service. Customer service is a set of agreed values for consistently treating your students in a certain way. That's what we mean by it. It's a set of values for treating your students in a certain way. These are skills that make the job of the student service professional, the faculty member, the school official, they make your job easier. That's a key point here. And I'm going to get to what customer service is not in a minute, but just hold this thought. These skills will make your job easier if you can really internalize what we're talking about here. And these things can be taught and learned. You can teach your staff to follow these principles. Now, what do we not mean? Okay, I want to be very clear, because a lot of times when people hear customer service training, they think, okay, I'm going to lead with a set of, answer your emails this way and always say thank you and say, may I help you? Those are rules of engagement, rules of behavior. I'm not talking about a set of prescriptions and rules here. Those are important, maybe especially for very new staff or staff that need some special help to give them a very specific set of rules. What I'm really going to be talking about here are values that you need to instill in how you approach the entire idea of customer service. So they're really much more of a general principle. But if you can internalize them as a whole, all the other principles will come into line easily because you'll understand them intuitively. This is not a trendy way to bring retail principles to higher education. And I know this is something you'll see in the literature about customer service in higher ed. We need to treat our students like customers. Yes, that's true. But I'm not trying to, make this into, we're treating higher education like it's a store. I don't have a problem with that. But let me say that there's a lot of literature on the counter that says, school is not like a retail business. It's not a store. It isn't a situation where the customer is always right. We bring students to give them information, teach them principles that are really, in many ways, is not negotiable. We're experts. We're giving them instruction. This is not a situation where we just need to cater to whatever they want and treat them like a customer's always right situation. So you'll hear that argument as well. You'll hear we need to treat students like customers, and there's the argument that really that's going too far. I'm really not talking about either of those things. I'm really talking about treating students in a way that helps them be successful and helps you be successful. And it's really not about the school's competitive advantage. I'm not talking about, hey, if you up your game, you're going to get more students from that school down the street. You may do that by being a good steward and offering good customer service. But really, the point of all of what I'm talking about today is helping the students succeed in school, helping them stay in school, graduate from school, and equally making your job of working with students easier and happier. That's really what I'm talking about here. So it's important because it's going to help the students experience school with less effort. Again, it may give you a competitive advantage, but that's really not the key outcome. The key outcome, and you will measure this more than anything, is are your students successful in their college experience? And is it less effortful for them to get through school? Will they stay in school? Are they going to understand what's going on? Are the administrators that are working with students on a day-to-day basis, are they happier, less frustrated, and more fulfilled in their job? That's what it's about. And furthermore, I'm going to tell you that these basic customer service ideas, I feel that they have a compounding effect. They spread throughout the institution. They grow in ways that you can't even imagine when you're dealing with the front line. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. So, customer service, again, we're talking about it's about the success of your students, about your good, clear communication. It's about making your own job easier. But how do you know maybe you have a problem with customer service? Maybe your customer service is not where it needs to be. Well, here's a few ways that are going to hint to you that you may have a problem. One, lots of people, the students and the parents, want to escalate. So they're talking to your frontline staff, your registrar, financial aid officer, admission officer, advisor, whoever is the first point of contact, but they want to speak to the director. They want to speak to the vice president. They want to speak to the dean. They want to speak to the president. If escalation is a daily occurrence for you, you've got a problem. Here's a common thing I hear. I've always heard it. We sent them instructions and they didn't follow them. All right? If that happens a lot, you sent them instructions and they didn't follow them, and year after year you say, why don't the students follow the instructions we're sending them? Well, you may have a problem, because really, whose job is it to communicate? Yours or theirs? So if you're sending them very crystal clear instructions, they're not following, you have a problem. So here's another way to know. You don't understand your instructions either. And I'm telling you, I've been there. Reading your own catalog, your own forms, your own signs in the hall, and you're saying, what does that mean? If you don't know what it means, guess what? They don't know what it means either. Another sign you may have a problem, students are mysteriously leaving and not returning them, you really don't know why. You know, this could be for life circumstances. There's a lot of ways that students leave, but let me tell you this too. If you have a great customer service experience, students will often stay in spite of their life circumstances. So if you've got a high level of attrition, that can be a problem. And finally, if you're there, you say, we're here to help, we love our students, we want to help you, but they're not showing up to get the help, that could be a sign too. So consider these as signs that, hey, something may be going on, something we need to work on with customer service. All right, so I'm going to give you 5 principles that, again, I've trained my own staff many, many times on. I've learned these the hard way through, you know, the bruises and knocks of dealing with students on a day-to-day basis. And this is the 5 principles. I'm going to go through each of them. These are the things that I think if you can internalize these ideas to your staff, it's going to make for a good customer service culture and a good outcome. All right, 1, follow your own rules. 2, if a student comes to you ready to say no, but only if no is the only answer. 4, don't match emotions with an upset student. And 5, view the issue from the student's point of view. And we're getting a little bit of a feedback on a couple of phones out there. If you could mute the phone, if anybody's on, and you could mute your phone, because we're getting a little bit of feedback on that. A little bit of feedback from one of the phones. All right, I'm going to go through each of these in a moment. Now, first of all, you'll notice a couple of them are what you shouldn't do. And you may think, hey, Steve, why give us principles about don't? Shouldn't everything be positive? Well, the reason for this is that these are common issues that people face when dealing with students. And putting it from the don't do this perspective, I find brings clarity to the issue. So that's why. You could turn it around to put it into a positive statement, but putting it on the don't do this statement, again, just makes it easier for people to understand because they've been there. They understand what I'm talking about. All right, follow your own rules. This is a key point. Follow your own rules. And it may seem obvious. Of course we follow our own rules. But let me tell you why this is so critical and maybe why it doesn't always happen. First of all, why do we have rules? 1, they provide clarity and consistency. If you follow your own rules consistently, you never have to remember what you did the last time with student A. You don't have to worry about how you're going to treat student B because you're going to treat them just like you did student A. You know, and the truth is that I know a lot of us are saying, well, we do that, but do we? I've seen it a million times that we treat student A one way and student B another way because we're kind of hedging a little bit on about it. Follow your own rules. Be transparent about your own rules. It's okay to have exceptions. Exceptions are when the rule and the situation don't match and you need to make an exception. You need to document it. It needs to be on, you know, very transparent, clear terms to everybody. You, the people you work with, and the student. It's okay to have exceptions, but they don't become the rule. They are transparent and they make sense to everybody. Importantly, the rules put the school and the student on a level playing field. They both understand them, they both agree to them, and then they come to them as equal players, and then they provide comfort and trust. This is sort of a bedrock principle. Again, I don't think there'll be a lot of argument about it, but think about it as you go through time. Does everybody follow their own rules all the time about everything? You know, you have a deadline. Let's say that. There's a simple rule. The deadline is X. But I let 5, 6, 7, or 8 students come in after the deadline, and then the next 10 or 15 don't get, you know, I do apply the deadline. Well, so here's the thing, you know, is that an exception or is that not following your own rules? If your deadline isn't really December 13th, when you're really going to accept the form through December 15th, make the deadline the real deadline and stick to it. And that way, you don't have complaints, you don't have people upset, you have everybody trusting you, it's the real deal. That's what I would say. And if the exceptions are what, you know, my car broke down, I got sick, make that exception. but apply the rules equally to all people, and you will find that your trust contract with the student is there, and it's going to make for good customer service going forward. 2, own the issue. Now, this is very, very important, especially in our customer service environment, our school administrative environment. If the student comes to you, consider it tag, you're it. That is your issue. Own it. Now, I know what you're going to say. That's not my department. I don't understand that. That's that department up there. I have no control over that. That may be true. Absolutely. The student comes, you're the financial aid office. The student comes to you with a complaint about a grade. Well, yes, you do need to refer them to the registrar or the dean or something like that. I get it. You can't directly fix their problem, but you can still own it. You can still make that student feel heard. You can still walk the student to the office they need to talk to. You can still connect them with another human being. You can still follow up the student and say, did your question get answered? Is there anything still going on? Let me know if it's all okay. You can own it and make sure that that student feels served, even if you don't directly fix it yourself. Remember, the org chart means nothing to the student. The org chart is for us, Office A, Office B, Office C. It is a mystery to the student often of what these different offices mean or why they're organized in the way that they are. For the student, it's all the school. They expect that when they're talking to the dean knows the rules of grade changes as effectively as the registrar knows them and as the financial aid office knows them. They expect that everybody is on the same page because they don't understand the org chart, they don't understand the silos. So treat it that way. Treat the student as if the org chart really doesn't exist. If they come to you, say, you know what, I'm not going to fix the problem directly, but we're going to go talk to Mr. Smith over here. We're going to see what we can do, and you're going to let me know if it happened or not. Own the issue. Own it. Number 3, don't be afraid to say no, but only if no is the only answer. Now I will commit to you. If you only treat one of my 5 principles, treat this one. Teach this one. If that's the only one of the 5 you can remember, or the only one that you want to teach your staff, teach this one. Because if your administrative staff, your faculty, your people who work in your office can emotionally relate to this one principle, everything else will really fall in line. I really believe it. No is something we have got to say in life, in school administration, everywhere. We have to be able to say no. But no has to be a real answer. It cannot be a cop-out. How many times have you seen you go someplace and you know that they're telling you no just because they don't feel like dealing with you. They don't feel like going the extra mile. They don't feel like owning the issue. They're telling you no because it's not the real answer and you know it. So what do? Let me speak to your boss, your president, your dean. You're escalating the problem because that no is not real and you know it's not real. If no is a real answer, students will accept it. They will. I guarantee you, if no is genuine, it's legitimate, it's real, they will accept your word no as truth. And they won't hate you for it and they won't resent you for it. It's a gift to them. Now, I'm not saying that they would be happy. I've said no to people that the outcome is not what they wanted, but they trusted me and they understood, they had clarity about it. So no is the only answer. If no is not the real answer, then slow it down, take some time, get to the right answer before you give the student the answer. Don't be afraid to ask for more time. The student comes and asks you something complicated. You don't really know the answer, so saying no is the easiest way to clear it off your desk. But no isn't the real answer here. It's not necessarily the only answer. I need more time with this one. Tell the student I need more time. Repeat back to them, I understand what you're asking. And at this point, I really don't know. I may be able to do it for you. I may not be able to do it for you. But I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to give it my level best to see what's going on. Ask for time. And then if no is the real answer, tell them no. If no isn't the real answer, tell them yes. But make sure your your no is a real no. If it is, feel good about it. The student's going to feel good about it. If it's not, give them the real answer. Number 4, don't match emotions. This one is all the time in customer service. The customer gets upset, and we on the customer service side of the desk get upset with him. Okay, this happens all the time. It happened to me not too long ago. I was dealing with a customer service issue, and I was, because I was billed incorrectly for something, and I kept having to escalate because the line people on the front line couldn't answer it, so I had to get going further and further out, and it was making me frustrated, and the person on the customer service side got frustrated too and told me, started arguing with me basically. Well, at the end of the day, what was going on? Was I upset at that person? Of course not. I don't even know that person. I'm upset by the fact that I'm spending time dealing with something where I know I'm right and I know they're going to fix it, but they're taking time to go through a bureaucratic process, and it's a frustration to me. Well, they matched emotions with me, and it was a big mistake, because what did I do? I left with I'm myself unhappy, a worse opinion about the situation, and I didn't feel served. The truth is that the person could have just kept methodically going through my question, listening to what I had to say, never matched my emotion. This has happened to me. Maybe it's happened to you. I've also seen it on the administrative side. A student comes in upset about X, Y, and Z, and the staff take it personally. They want to save face with the student, so they start matching emotion with the student. That is never a winning strategy. It's never a winning strategy. Empathize. Don't argue. Listen to what the student says. Repeat back what the student is saying to you. I understand that you are upset by the fact that your check was supposed to be here today and it's not here today. Your check was promised for December 13th, and now it's coming on December 20th. I get it. You don't have money now for the next week. I understand what you're saying. Very frustrating situation. Let me tell you what we're going to do. Let me tell you what we're not going to do. Whatever. But don't match the student's emotion. Don't read them. Don't tell them that, the XYZ office is to blame. Don't match emotion. Empathize with them. Listen to them. Work through it with them. Slow it down. They always say in police work that, the way you don't make mistakes in police work is to slow it down. Slow down the situation. De-escalate. Don't get emotionally involved in a crisis. Detach yourself from it. Slow it down in your mind. Then you don't make the mistakes. Don't match emotions. And finally, view the issue from the student's point of view. Think to yourself constantly, back to the issue of the org chart. What is the student seeing here? They're not seeing the financial aid office, the registrar's office, the dean's office. Think, what is the student seeing? Try to look at it from their point of view. And if you don't know, ask the work study student who is in your office, what is the student actually seeing here? I had this situation come up within the last week, talking to a school where a recent graduate works in the school and was talking about something from the student's perspective. Very, very valuable information for the administrators who've been there for years to understand. The student's perspective is right there. Ask students, if you have trouble seeing it from the student's point of view, ask the student. Especially this comes to bear when you're talking about your instructions, your process, your guidelines. Make sure that they're written in simple, plain language, free of jargon, free of regulatory type of diction. Make sure that what you're saying to people makes sense to them and makes sense to you, and that you view it as if I were a person who came here and didn't know what was going on, would I understand what's going on? Would I understand these things? When your staff are talking to them, make sure they're using words that are relatable. Constantly empathize and put yourself in the student's point of view. So just a quick review. Follow your own rules. If a student comes to you, own it. Don't be afraid to say no. but only if no is the only answer. Never match emotion with the student, and view the issue from the student's perspective. Okay. So again, why is this important? Good customer service gives the student the comfort of an organized system. Again, these principles, these behaviors, these values are not about competitive advantage. They're not about survey scores. They're not about U.S. News and World Report, ultimately. They're really not about self-congratulating ourselves as administrators. They're really about helping students be successful, understand what we're doing so that they get it. And again, we are happier dealing with it because we also get it. And we feel empowered as well because of the good customer service principles. They give the student the comfort of an organized system. And let me tell you, the multiplication, the compounding effect, you're going to see it. Here's what it is. When a system is organized, it sort of takes root everywhere. For example, if you have an organized system, students are more likely to behave themselves in the dorm, in the cafeteria, in the dining hall, when you're not looking, because they believe that your system is organized and they have trust in it. If your system's disorganized, we have a situation where the forms we put out are incomprehensible, and the staff matches emotions, and we say no just because we want to clear it, get them out of our office. We don't say no because it's yes. We know all those things. Well, I'm going to commit to you that it's going to be easier for students to, do things you don't want them to do on the side. Maybe in the dining hall, they do things that they're not supposed to do, or in the dorm they do things, or in the class they do things they're not supposed to do. But if you have a system that they feel is put together, is organized, is honest and genuine, the student is going to carry that throughout his or her experience of the entire school. Silent suffering. You're not going to have silent suffering. Students are going to come to you with their issues because they know you're going to own it. They know if they come to you, they're going to trust that you're going to take care of them. You're going to own the issue. Maybe this is the same student. In fact, I put this to a test. This is the same student you said no to last week. But because your no was genuine, she's back in your office this week with something else she wants to do. Because why? She knows the answer she gets from you are straight. She knows you own the issue. She knows you empathize and see things from her point of view. You're not going to have silent suffering. The student who needs intervention is going to come to you asking for help because they're going to trust you. They're going to trust that what you're saying is true. It's all about, and it's trust. And let me just add this. This is trust up and down the line. This is everybody. Again, back to the first principle. Sure, the top level, dean, vice president, president, they're going to be using these same principles. But really, you've hit the gold standard when the very first person that they talk to on your campus, whoever that is, counselor, work study student even, if that person can follow these principles and make the student feel served, you know for a fact that you are winning in the customer service environment. Those are the 5 principles that I have laid out. I think they work. I think if you can teach these, then you don't need a prescription. You don't need a list of rules that you have to follow. You can do that later if you want, but those things are, unnecessary to give people a list that they have to memorize. Teach the 5 principles, and then you will find, and follow up on them, and then you will find that the other things come into place. Here's a question. What happens when administration proceeds to override a true no? Fantastic question. Okay, fantastic question. All right, here's what I would say. In the ideal world, you are all going to agree on these customer service principles, and your administration is going to back the true no all the way up the line so that you maintain that trust in your system. But I do know in the real world, sometimes student, parent, something is going to get to someone up higher up, and that no is going to be turned to a yes. Make sure that when you have that true no, make sure that when you have that no turned into a yes, that you make your top level administrator know what the consequences are. Make sure that you make the other staff, if you can, understand what happened, and that the truth is that at the end of the day, the person at the very top has the accountability and the right to change the terms. What I would do, though, is go circle back and say, okay, you turned that true no into a yes. Let's redo that. Was it a true no to begin with, or is now yes the right answer? And if the administration's answer is, well, I want you to continue saying no with that answer, I just said yes this one time, then you need to do one of two things. You need to really consider, was it a true no, or two, is it an exception? And if it's an exception, you just have to accept the fact that sometimes exceptions do exist. But I would think about that. I wouldn't just let it go. If you find that the true no is turned into a yes, really, really think about it hard about what really happened there. Was it an exception that's the prerogative of the top administrator, or was our true no actually not a true no to begin with? So, very tricky question. All right. So another question here. Let's talk about this one. Okay. Do you have any advice on a helicopter helicopter parent of students that call and are abusive to staff? Okay. And thank you. Sorry, we couldn't hear me to begin with. All right. So helicopter parents, students that call are abusive to staff. This is tricky. Sometimes you will get this. I would say that in my experience, as long as you maintain that not matching emotions, focus on their issue, continue to repeat back to them what they're asking, focus on their problem, constantly drive home to them, that you are listening to what they are saying, you will eventually get them to trust you, and you will not have matched emotions, and you won't really see it you won't really take it personally as abuse. You will work through the problem. Now, if they're truly, truly terrible, they're cussing, they're saying harassing type thoughts, things like that, then it is absolutely acceptable to go and draw the line with them and say, you cannot behave that way in this office. That is not welcome. I've done that as well. You have a point where people do. I had a student throw something at a staff member one time. Okay? That's unacceptable. And you have to say, you cannot be here. And actually I threatened to expel the student from the school altogether because of that, because you have to draw the line in that situation. So that's a situation you have to make sure that you're not matching emotion, but if it truly is abusive, draw the line, absolutely cut it off. Okay, let's see, what's another question here? We have one that said, what advice would you give to students who come to the office daily, multiple occasions, students already been advised, given a true response previously? Okay, so they're taking up a lot of your time. They're basically coming in and asking the same question over and over again. Yes, I've seen this too. Maybe they just enjoy the company of coming to the office, and you sort of, they're sort of taking up your bandwidth, and they're really not asking you something new. I would advise you, don't match emotions with them, continue to be nice to them, but, you may have to tell them at a certain point, if it truly becomes a resource issue, you may have to say to them, look, we've talked about this, and you're coming back to the office to ask the same question. I'm going to have to say that I think at this point we've answered that, and we need to move on. If you have a new question we can answer, please do. Good customer service doesn't mean you can't draw the line with students on certain things, or enforce your rules, or enforce behaviors. That's not what we're saying. We're saying be empathetic. We're saying don't match. We're saying offer a real no. But if you have a student who's being abusive, or you have a student who's being a out-of-bound problem, you can draw the line with them. And it may be the best way to offer customer service because you have other students to think about, and you do have your staff to think about. So don't be afraid to draw the line if drawing the line is necessary. Maybe as a corollary, don't be afraid to say no if it's the only answer. Don't be afraid to draw the line with a student if it's the only answer as well. Trellis Company offers webinars of various training topics. This one was about customer service. We've got training topics of various kinds. You can check on trelliscompany.org, our website, for future webinar opportunities and to see a copy of this one. And we'll have a link to the slides and the recording and those kinds of things. So check back on trelliscompany.org. If you have specific questions for me, again, Very, very simple. steve.smith@trelliscompany.org. I'm happy to answer your specific questions or give you any feedback that I may offer. Thank you again to everybody. We had a big group today on the call. We want to thank everyone for joining us. Happy holidays to all of you, and we will see you for our next webinar next year. Thank you.